From the Opubco Studios in Oklahoma City, you're watching The Press Row. We're brought to you by Papa John's. You can go online right now and order your pizza at papajohns.com. I'm Jenny Carlson here with Barry Trammell. It's time for WePickEm, Barry, and we've got some fantastic games to pick from this week. Let's get started with the big SEC game. LSU goes to Alabama. Really a first test for Alabama in quite a few weeks here.
Yeah, you know, remember when the SEC game of the year was always Florida, Tennessee? Well, that has shifted west. LSU, Alabama. They played for the national title in 2011. They've had great games in recent years. This is the marquee game of the South on an annual basis. If this game was in Baton Rouge, I'd take LSU. I'm still leaning towards a really tight game. LSU's a really good team. Les Miles really got his offense going, but Alabama is playing at a high level. Last time Bama was stretched was that A&M game. Bama wins, but they give up 42 points to Johnny Manziel. Since then, the Alabama defense has been unbelievably stingy. I think they're going to stay that way. I think Alabama wins.
Yeah, I'm picking Alabama in this one as well, and it's in large part because of what I mentioned before, that Alabama's not really been tested in a long time. The SEC schedule makers made it so that this team could definitely get to the national championship game. Now, they've had to win games, I get that, and they're going to have to beat LSU, but they've had a chance to probably be looking a little bit ahead of this game for a while because they were so much better than these other teams that they were playing. Now, I'm not saying players looked ahead, but coaches, they had to be scheming, they had to be looking at film, they had to be preparing. So you got to go with Alabama. Anytime Nick Saban has even an iota of chance to prepare for somebody a little extra, I'm always going with Alabama. So I'll pick the Crimson Tide again. What about this game, Barry? It's a Thursday night game, much like OU at Baylor. Oregon goes to Stanford. Who are you picking?
Well, it's a wild game because last year Stanford goes to Oregon and pulls the upset, knocks the Ducks out of national title contention. This time, Oregon goes to Stanford, and everybody thinks Oregon's going to win. Certainly, the Ducks have played better than Stanford this year. Cardinals lost at Utah, struggled in a couple of other games. Guess who hasn't struggled? Oregon. I think it's going to be a great game. Stanford's style of play is just a wonderful brand of football. Really counters the Oregon high-speed effect. However, on the perimeter, it's still very tough for Stanford to match up with the Ducks. They've done a better job with that, but I think Oregon on the road still gets it done.
Yep, I'm going to Oregon with the win, and I tell you what, I think Oregon, if they handle business against Stanford like I think they're gonna show people that they deserve consideration as the best team in the country. Now, I don't think they're gonna leapfrog Alabama into that top spot in the polls anytime soon, but I think Oregon might have the best team in college football this year. I think that they're playing well. I think they've got an offense that could really challenge Bama. I just really hope they don't have a stumble like they always seem to. That seems to be their thing. Every year they've got one game that they stumble in and they lose that chance to play for a national championship. I hope it's not this week because I would love to see Oregon play Alabama in the national championship game. All right, Barry, what about this game? Kansas State goes to Texas Tech. We've seen Tech up close and personal the last 2 weeks playing at Oklahoma and then against Oklahoma State. Who you got in this one?
This is a great game because of the way Kansas State is playing. The Cats were not good early. They lose to North Dakota State, struggled at times. But Kansas State's playing pretty good now. They went to Stillwater and lost tight. They just throttled West Virginia. They're really playing at a high level now, and I think Kansas State is going to surprise Tech. I think Kansas State's going to win in an upset. You and the paper, we proclaimed Texas Tech was overrated 2 weeks ago. Tech's back about where it belongs now, but the truth is Tech last Saturday was not impressive at all. They hosting Oklahoma State, and the Cowboys dominated them. I think Kansas State, Bill Snyder, goes and gets it done in Lubbock.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a heck of a game. I'm going to go with Tech to get the rebound win, but I tell you what, it's not going to be easy because K-State, as we've talked to other times and elsewhere, K-State knows how to handle these teams that have these high up-tempo offenses. They did it against Baylor. They shortened the game. They ran the ball. They ultimately lost to Baylor. But Baylor's offense better than Texas Tech. So Tech's got its work cut out for them. But I think that they're going to get it done. If this game was in Manhattan, I'd pick K-State. But since it's in Lubbock, I'll go with Texas Tech. All right, Barry, what about the game up in Stillwater on Saturday? Kansas at Oklahoma State. Any question here about who wins?
No, OSU. It's going to be OSU. Kansas hadn't won a Big 12 game since, what, 2010? Beat Colorado on Colorado's sort of swan song out of the league.
It's been so long, the team they beat is no longer even in the league.
If anybody remembers, that was a game Colorado led by 28 points. Such a terrible loss. They fired their coach, Dan Hawkins. No, Kansas is just a shell of a program. Cowboys are going to handle them.
Yeah, Cowboys by an easy victory on Saturday. I think that they roll. Somebody asked earlier this week in our department, hey, is Oklahoma State playing or are they off this week? They have a bye. Sort of both.
Both.
I think both is the answer. All right, Barry, lastly, the big Thursday night game as Oklahoma goes to Baylor. Who you got?
Well, you know, Baylor is untested. I don't know if they're underrated, but they are untested. They go to Manhattan, win a nice game at K-State, 35-25. That's really the only game where they've played somebody that could pop them back. So this is going to be a little bit of culture shock for the Bears. The Sooners have been tested. They played Texas, Texas Tech, Notre Dame. They've played a bunch of games that could go either way. I think the Sooners are 14.5-point underdogs. I don't think the Sooners are going to roll over that easy. I'm going to take Baylor, but I think it's going to be a great game. I think Mike Stoops' defense will slow down Baylor to some degree, but I just think in the end, Baylor is very good. They're playing at home. Next to last game in the history of Floyd Casey Stadium. I think Baylor wins something 34-30, something like that.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Baylor in this one as well, but it's going to be it's going to be closer, I think, than the odds makers. I agree with you on that, Barry. I just think Baylor is that defense is the question mark for me. The Baylor defense. We know the Baylor offense is going to score, and maybe I can't imagine they score as many as we've seen them score in some other games. 69, 70, 70 plus. I can't imagine that that's the case against Oklahoma, but the Baylor defense is where my biggest question is how really good is that Bear defense? I mean, I think they're better, but they came from a long way back. So saying they're better is not saying they're great. I think Oklahoma's offense is going to have some success. Just how much success, that remains to be seen because we really don't know. We don't know how good that Baylor defense is because, as you mentioned, untested, unproven. We're going to find out Thursday night. And be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.